The Eternals is out now, and with this new entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe comes a literal dump truck of brand new lore related to the cosmic side of the MCU. However, it's undeniable that one of the most interesting aspects of the film is the reintroduction of the insanely powerful race of cosmic beings known as the Celestials. This video is going to break down the cosmic beings as we know them within the MCU. Now keep in mind, we are not going to be covering their counterparts within the comics, but we may reference them if need be. This video is purely discussing the MCU. That being said, let's break down everything we know about the Celestials within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Eternals introduced the concept that all life within the Marvel Cinematic Universe was created and originated by a race of extraterrestrial beings known as the Celestials. The Celestials are, as far as we know, the oldest race of beings within the MCU. Celestials existed before the dawn of creation, and before the 6 singularities that became known as the Infinity Stones. The Prime Celestial, Ashirem, created the first sun and gave light to the universe. More so, Arishem's main function within the universe is to aid in the birth of new celestial beings that will, in turn, bring about more life to the universe. Known as an endless cycle of destruction and creation, according to Ashirem, without the Celestials completing this process, eventually the entire universe would be plunged into darkness and die. Arishem's desire to assist young species in their evolution was done in order to aid each world in a process known as the Emergence. Every million years, new Celestials must be born. To that end, Ashirem would plant a celestial seed of life within a planet. In Earth's case, it was the celestial Tiamat. In order to grow, a celestial would lay dormant in the core of the planet, feeding off the energy of sentient, intelligent life. The quantity of life required depends upon the species, but we know that after all human beings were brought back from the decimation, Earth had reached the necessary required energy to allow Tiamat to be born. To aid in this process, Ashirem created 2 races of beings. First came the Deviants, a race of beings designed to help kill off predatory species on thriving young worlds to allow life to better evolve. However, as time progressed, the Deviants became the predators themselves and forced Ashirem to create another race of beings to eradicate them, the Eternals. The Eternals were a race of synthetic beings whose main function was to protect life from the Deviants and assist in the development of early young species. The full scope of a Celestial's abilities are not known yet, however we have seen a staggeringly powerful array of abilities at their command. They can manipulate cosmic energy to give birth to life and create matter. We've seen Celestials create stars and full galaxies from essentially nothing. Additionally, we know that they can travel over incredibly far distances almost instantaneously through teleportation. Another Celestial we know quite a bit about is Ego, the living planet. Ego's kind of a strange Celestial within the MCU as he seems to be a bit of a renegade in his own regard. Ego states that the first thing he recalls is drifting completely alone within the void of outer space. It's unknown if this is how he originated from his own emergence or if he was created through alternate means. Considering his vast age compared to other Celestials, he may have been the byproduct of experimentation on how to create new celestial life before Ashirem landed on his current methodology. Or Ego could be the same age as Ashirem and they both came into existence around the same time. It's unknown. After drifting endlessly for millions of years, Ego began the process of building a world around his consciousness and created a biological avatar for himself that could leave his planet and go out further into the cosmos to search for life. This avatar needed to come back to Ego's host planet periodically to recharge. After finding additional life and being unimpressed by what he found, Ego decided to embark on his own grand design, the Expansion. Ego decided to seed extensions of himself within worlds with sentient life, thereby terraforming these planets into extensions of himself. However, Ego wasn't strong enough to do this alone and needed the power of another Celestial to complete the expansion. He tried unsuccessfully to mate with various beings across the galaxy in order to create new celestial life, and eventually it was determined that his son, Peter Quill, had the necessary traits to assist with the expansion. However, Ego's plan was stopped by the combined might of the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Ravengers. For more information on Ego, check out our video on how powerful is Ego. We've also seen other brief glimpses of Celestials throughout other events in the MCU. The Collector described an event where a Celestial named Eson the Searcher used an Infinity Stone to destroy a world effortlessly. Despite the fact that Celestials are essentially gods within the Marvel Universe, they can be killed. We have seen this happen 3 times within the MCU already. During the Eternals, Cersei was able to put the emerging Tiamat into a dormant state using a tremendous amount of energy created by forming a Unimind with other Eternals. When Ashirem created the Eternals, he imbued their bodies with infinite cosmic energy in order to keep them ageless. The Eternal Phastos was able to create bands that allowed Cersei to gather the power of others and use it to stop the birth of Tiamat. Ego is killed by much less spectacular means when Rocket creates a massive bomb out of Annulac's batteries. However, keep in mind that Rocket can create weapons that destroy moons, and the Annulac's batteries are some of the most powerful sources of energy in the universe, capable of powering the entire planet of the Sovereign. Lastly, we see Ego killed within the Marvel What If series by Ultimate Ultron using the power of the Infinity Stones, which makes sense, they are pretty strong. And the last element of celestial activity and death we've seen within the MCU is the lawless outpost known as Nowhere. Nowhere is the severed head of a dead celestial. Some have speculated that this celestial is Jemiah, seeing as there's a bar within Nowhere named Jemiah's Boot. However, Jemiah is also shown in Eternals creating a star, so it's difficult to know for sure. It's unclear how this Celestial was killed. I anticipate that we will find out one day what led to his beheading, but we do know that hundreds of years ago, the Tivian group set up mining operations within the skull in order to harvest the valuable resources within. The remnants of celestial bone, brain tissue, and spinal fluid all became insanely valuable resources on the galactic black market. And that is about it for Celestials within the MCU as of right now. Hopefully we continue to learn more about these beings within the MCU, as I think they offer a ton of awesome lore to explore within this universe. Now, if you're interested in the Celestials, feel free to check out our videos on the comic book history of Eros, an Eternal of the planet Titan introduced at the end of Eternals. Also, check out our video on the Eternals vs. Avengers to see what we think would happen if these two juggernaut teams came to blows. And lastly, feel free to follow us on Twitter in order to learn what videos and projects we're working on for the future. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned a lot. This has been Nick with Key Issues, and remember the motto, Celestials over everything.